Good morning, everyone. Today I would like to deliver my short presentations on this pragmatic class. The subject would be about reference and inference according to George Yule's book of Pragmatics. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Let's go first with what George Yule said inside the book regarding the reference and inference. He said that words themselves do not refer to anything, people refer. We might think of the referent as an act in which a speaker or writer or even use a linguistic form to enable a listener or reader to identify something. Okay, let's have this as a quote, as I found this quite interesting. Words themselves do not refer to anything, people refer. Let's just keep this while we go to the next slide. Okay, let's go first with reference. What is a reference? According to Yule, reference is an act in which a speaker or writer uses linguistic forms to enable a listener or reader to identify something. So there is a help and a sign of linguistic forms inside. So what's the help? What's the assist? And what's the form? Let's go to the next slide. These linguistic forms are called referring expressions. As you can see inside the image below, there are only two images, Paris and Macron. But you can see how they can be referred based on the linguistic form used, such as proper noun, noun phrase, pronouns. Again, its use of these linguistic forms will deliver different referring expressions. Let's go to the next slide. Referential and attributive uses. Let's have another quote from Yule on this. He said that not all referring expressions have identifiable physical reference. And how is that? Let's dig in deeper on the attributive uses itself. Attributive use is whatever that fits the descriptions. Like for example, there's a man waiting for you. As it is whatever fits the description, so we might assume a man as any man. However, if we go with the referential use, a specific person is referred to, although his or her name or some other description is not used. For example, he wants to marry a woman with lots of money. He, a woman with lots of money, instead of mentioning a name, we would like to find a 9-foot-tall basketball player. Everybody knows the player mentioned without mentioning the name. Okay, let's visit the next slide. Inference. What is an inference? Inferring is connecting prior knowledge to text-based information to create meaning beyond what is directly stated. Need to put note that for successful reference to occur, we must also recognize the role of inference. In inference, there is a basic collaborations at work, intention to identify, and recognitions of intention. Let's go to the collaborations. This process needs to not only work between one speaker and one listener, it appears to work in terms of invention between all members of a community who share common language and culture. The book also mentions about the role of cortex, as according to Yule, cortex is just a linguistic part of the environment in which the referring expression is used. He also highlighted on how context is perhaps more easily recognized as having a powerful impact on how referring expressions are to be interpreted. He also mentions about reference, that it is a social act in which the speaker assumes that the word or phrase chosen to identify an object or person will be interpreted as the speaker intended. Like the given example below. Brazil wins the World Cup. We can see that Brazil here is the context, and wins the World Cup is the cortex. We can see that Brazil here is not to be assumed as a standalone country, but more to their football national team, and is supported by the Cortex, which is the winning the World Cup, the highest football competition in the world. World Cup. Let's go to the anaphoric reference. After the initial instructions of some entity, speaker will use various expressions to maintain reference. I will just say that this is a more to a repetition to maintain the reference, like for given example below. In the film, a man and a woman were trying to wash a cat. The man was holding the cat while the woman poured water on it. He said something to her and they started laughing. In technical terms, the second or subsequent expression is the anaphor, and the initial is the antecedent. A man, repeat, becomes the man, becomes he. A woman becomes the woman, becomes she. He plus she becomes they. So it's all about repetition here. Previously, we had noticed about antecedents. Antecedents is the first mentioning of the initial referent, like said inside the example. Peel and slice 6 potatoes. Put them in cold salted water. The peel and slice potatoes becomes the antecedents, while them becomes the anaphoric, as it is a repetition and is referred to the peel and slice potatoes. And how about zero anaphor? Okay, zero anaphor happens when the interpretation requires us to identify an entity and no linguistic expressions is presented. There is no mentionings about the peeled and sliced onion or the one dropped into hot oil inside the third sentences. It directly mentions cook for 3 minutes. Here we just need to identify the entity to interpret it. So it becomes the zero and a four, the third sentence. After we go through all the subjects related with the reference and inference, we can analyze the example as follows. But before that, I will repeat what Yule said, that words themselves do not refer to anything. People refer. And yeah, we need to keep that in mind. Okay, let's go to the example. Where is Agnes Monica? It's on the shelf. Here, the word Agnes Monica usually refers to a person. But in this utterance, the speaker refers to Agnes Monica as a music city. So it is people refer, not words. Why? Because the context determines that. As both speakers are inside a music store. So Agnes Monica become the reference and a music CD as an inference. Okay, second example. Where is the tomatoes lying? They are lying on the stove. This conversation took place in a restaurant between two waitresses. Again, you put in mind, words themselves do not refer to anything. People refer. If you are studying linguistics translation, you might ask someone, where can I find scopus? You will get response, ah, it's on the shelf over there. Through those two examples, the context determines the situations. Like the above example, where can I find scopus? And the reply is on the shelf. Both speakers are inside library, so they share the same meaning, same situation. Based on the example given in the previous slide, The role of inference in communication is to allow the listener to identify correctly which particular entity, thing, or person the speaker referring to. Is the speaker referring to tomatoes, the person, or thing? Also, is the speaker referring to Scopus, the book, or the person?